Hello fellow writers! Today we're talking all about ideas and where to get them. There seems to be two types of writers. Either you're a writer swimming with ideas, or you're a writer who feels like they're constantly searching and coming up empty-handed. If you're that second type, this video is for you. Like I said, there are tons of writers who are constantly searching for ideas and having a hard time finding them. Today I want to give you 5 places you can look for new ideas. One place I look when I'm searching for ideas is all of the people around me. I love people watching. Sometimes I'll sit out at a coffee shop or a restaurant, even on a bench on the street, and I'll look at people walking by. And suddenly I find myself making up stories about them. I'm thinking about how they grew up, what their voice sounds like, and what got them where they were when our lives intersected for that brief moment. Sometimes having a physical subject to create a character out of is very helpful when you're searching for ideas and stories. I will say don't stare at anyone for too long. A lot of people who aren't writers especially will see someone staring at them and either get freaked out or really self-conscious, and you don't want to do either of those things to anybody. So keep your people watching discreet. Another place I go looking for ideas is in the history books. The course of events which happened to make our world what it is today includes tons of unique stories and people. This is a great place to find inspiration. Take these stories, take these characters, and put your own spin on them. For example, you have something like the Salem witch trials, which began happening in the late 1600s. It's where people would take women that they believed to be witches and burn them at the stake. So let's say you take that idea or that concept and run with it. Suddenly you have, oh, maybe there were witches back then. What happened to those witches that slipped through the cracks? Where are they now? How would that event have affected those people? Suddenly you've got yourself a story idea that could lead you in tons of different directions. The third place I tend to find inspiration for story ideas is from listening to music. I can listen to a song and think about the story it's telling and run with that. Let's take the song Hello, for example, since that's kind of popular right now, or was a few months ago. What if we thought about that story that Adele is telling through that song from the perspective of the person she's singing it to? Who is that person? What was their relationship? Why did it end? What is he doing now? You can see how this can start to give you some ideas. Another approach you can take is listening to songs without words. I like to do this with movie scores specifically. These sorts of songs will give you less of a story to work with, but rather a tone or maybe even a setting that it'll place you in, and then you can build your story around that. Tons of writers use music as inspiration while they're writing their story, but I don't think nearly as many of them think to do it before they have a story to write. The fourth method I'm going to give you for finding new ideas is one that I'm sure you've heard before, but it's so true that I have to include it here. And that is looking at your own life. No matter how hard you try, I believe that anything you write is going to have a part of you in it, and I just don't think that it's avoidable. So why not use those parts of you that will end up in your story as inspiration for it? You can take events from your life or opinions you have and turn those into stories. The great thing about using this sort of method is that you already know these things so well. You've lived them. The experiences are vivid. You don't have to use as much of your imagination when you're writing because you know the feelings, you know what it's like to be there. A lot of people will say that their life isn't exciting enough to write about, and I would argue that that's almost never true. The issue that you have with thinking your life isn't exciting is that it's too close to you. Let's say you were reading about the average day of someone who lives across the world from you, or someone who has a different identity from you. That becomes much more interesting. Just because you find your life boring doesn't mean that everybody will. Autobiographical writing is a great place to start when you're looking for ideas. Additionally, it's not going to stay autobiographical for the most part. A lot of what you write will morph into fiction and will turn into other things. You'll be able to play with it and manipulate it and make it look like something completely unrelated to your life on the surface. So give it a try. Think about those most salient points in your life or those most salient opinions that you have and try and weave them into your writing. My last suggestion of places for you to look for good ideas is through a non-human point of view. Imagine a day, a week, a month experienced through the eyes of something that isn't human. I really encourage you to challenge yourself here. I don't think you should use things like animals, aliens. I want you to think of something inanimate, something that really is going to push your boundary. This technique works a lot better for short stories versus novels. It's a lot harder to get through a novel written entirely in the point of view of something that isn't human or something that doesn't have human-like intelligence. This is a good practice for shorter works, and it's also good practice for novel writers as a prompt or an exercise, or even something to give you ideas for little bits of your novel. Like I said, I don't think it'll work as well for an entire novel-length manuscript, but it's still productive to do. It'll push your boundaries as a writer. Please give it a try. My goal with all 5 of these tips was to give you ways to identify new ideas without having them kind of fed to you. I don't want you to, go read Harry Potter, for instance, and then write an entire wizarding world with a bad guy who wants to kill all the kids. You're going to be lacking originality if you are taking ideas from other authors or from movies or TV shows or wherever that may be. So hopefully these tips will give you some ways to get ideas that you're generating with a little assistance but also on your own. That's how you get original stories and how you get things that people will want to read that they haven't seen before. If you have a chance to try these tips out, let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. You can also tweet me at megsill or comment on my blog, www.therightminds.com. Also, feel free to reach out to me just to chat about writing. I love meeting new writers. You guys are awesome. Keep up what you're doing, and happy writing.